The major news in the Menendez brothers case. The Los Angeles District Attorney has recommended the brothers should be resentenced. They're currently serving life in prison for the 1989 murders of their parents. We're going to talk to their lawyer in a moment, but first, our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, is in L.A. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Michael. For supporters of the brothers, this was a moment decades in the making. And in that room, when the DA made that announcement that he's calling for immediate parole for the brothers, there was an audible gasp. One of the family members saying, "Oh, wow." But the DA acknowledging to me that he knows this is controversial and that a lot of the opposition comes from within his own office.
This morning, the Menendez brothers one step closer to freedom. Prosecutors recommending a resentencing for the men for the 1989 murder of their parents.
We're going to recommend to the court that the life without the possibility of parole be removed.
The decision will go to a judge who will make a final ruling about Eric and Lyle's fate.
Was there one piece of evidence that came to light that got you and was one of the deciding factors in your decision?
Well, there were many, right? I mean, look, they were in prison for 35 years and they had no hopes of ever getting out. And yet they went on to not only do things to better themselves, but they spent a lot of time working and helping other prisoners.
New evidence prompting the DA to re-examine the case, including sexual abuse allegations by a former member of the boy band Menudo, who says the brother's father, Jose, raped him in the 1980s. In addition, a newly discovered letter that Eric wrote to his cousin described his father's alleged abuse months before the murders.
What do you tell people in your own office who say these two young men clearly premeditated this murder?
We're not letting them off. Okay, first of all, I have to be very clear. Those were brutal murders. They were premeditated, and that's why they got life without the possibility.
But you are recommending that they be released essentially immediately.
I am recommending that they be released because I believe that the people that they were is not the same people that we're seeing 35 years later.
Eric and Lyle, 18 and 21 at the time, admitted buying shotguns and blasting 16 rounds at their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in their Beverly Hills home. Their first trial, a hung jury, the second ending with them sentenced to life without parole. The brothers' lawyer now declaring a stunning victory.
All of these family members will uniformly ask one thing, which is, bring them home, bring them home.
Long before the new interest in this case, fueled by a social media push on TikTok, a new television series, and a documentary.
Were you scared?
Very.
Members of the Menendez family were pleading for the brothers' release.
The truth is, Lyle and Eric were failed by the very people who should have protected them.
But Kitty's 90-year-old brother, Milton, disagrees, releasing a statement Thursday saying the evidence remains overwhelmingly clear the punishment fits the heinous crime.
So what happens next? The DA tells me it could be 30 to 45 days before a judge gets the case and can make a ruling. Then it'll have to go before a parole board. They could take a number of weeks to decide. And then it's possible that Governor Gavin Newsom could also weigh in. So it could be months before the brothers are released. George.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. Let's speak with the Menendez brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos. Mark, thank you for joining us again. Have you had the chance to speak to Lyle and Eric?
I have. And I mean, obviously, after almost 35 years, it's quite a turn of events. It's been a long slog for them, and I think they're cautiously optimistic that they can see some real relief at this point.
How do you explain the decision?
Well, I think it's way overdue. We've been waiting and engaged with the DA now for 18 months. We filed the original petition. The judge promptly issued what's called a request for a reply, which the DA and I have been working through for the last, I would say, about a year, and they've taken it very seriously. I watched the package just now, and yesterday I watched a lot of the reporters asking about whether it was political. I said there is a degree of irony here because it was actually DA political infighting, which I believe was the reason that they were convicted the second trial. Without getting into the details of it, just remember their second trial after a hung jury took place. Evidence started 8 days after the O.J. acquittal, and I've always thought that this case, even in real time, was kind of payback for a DA who needed the win back then 35 years ago, 30 years ago.
You said you believe the brothers will be home by Thanksgiving, but Matt Gutman just laid out the timeline. So Thanksgiving seems ambitious, optimistic.
Yeah, I wasn't going to disagree with your reporter, but I don't think it's going to take 30 to 45 days to get a hearing in this case. I think we're going to have a hearing well before that. And in fact, if you want a little breaking news, the DA has already filed in the court. So the court has already got the filing.
So you still believe Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's my goal, is to have them home for Thanksgiving. You know, you showed a little bit of a clip there with Joan. For all of those people who say, well, maybe I understand about Jose, but what about Kitty? That was Kitty's older sister in your package right there. That's Joan. That's Joan, who's been one of their most steadfast advocates to have them released. To me, that's a compelling, very compelling argument. By the way, we have uniformly almost 25 of the family members who have all come forward. 10 of them flew out yesterday on 6 hours' notice to be there to implore the district attorney to take this move, because by initiating this move, which they did yesterday after the press conference, this now allows a judge to resentence them, to take a look at all the good work that they've done while being in prison and while having absolutely no ability or thought or any hope whatsoever to ever get out.
The brothers have spent more of their lives in prison than out of it. Are they prepared for freedom? What can you tell us about the plan for reentry?
Well, I won't go into the details for a plan of reentry, but clearly that was one of the things that we provided. I mean, they have done some unbelievable work while in prison. Lyle has kind of taken on what's called a green space project for himself that's actually been implemented in the prison. He's graduated from the University of California and gotten a BA degree. Eric has started hospice care for inmates, both in and outside of the walls. Eric's also a very talented artist and has been one of the people who has designed, painted, and implemented the Green Space Project. So I think they've done great things while in prison. I don't see anything that's going to stop them from continuing that good work once they're out.
Mark Garagos, thanks as always for your time.